Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin Dumas, and I am here today with Susan Haig and some members of the South Orange Symphony Orchestra. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here today.
You're welcome.
So I know we're going to get started immediately with playing, so I'll turn it over to you, Susan. And Susan is the conductor. I should mention that as well. And we'll talk a little bit more in the second segment, but let's just get started playing.
We're going to hear two voices out of a Bach chorale, and this occurs in the piece that we're playing on the 15th. And just to contrast the high flute and the low cello and hear how the voices work together. They don't really need a conductor, but I'll conduct them just for the sake of demonstration.
Okay.
So this is actually chamber music.
Okay.
And with chamber music, the players just listen and they can play on their own. So this time, Catherine's going to lead, and they're going to go their own way and do a different tempo. And she'll lead by breathing, and they'll just be listening to each other.
Wonderful.
Capable.
That was great.
So we have Bob Renshaw, who is principal oboist of the South Orange Symphony, and he's just sitting there. One of the reasons he's not playing is that the oboe has a tremendous penetrating capacity. You can hear it through and above a whole orchestra, and that's one of the reasons it gives the A. Also, it keeps stable pitch. But Bob, you can tell us why you decided to play the oboe?
Well, it's actually kind of a funny story. When I was in high school, I had been playing the saxophone since the 5th grade. And in 10th grade, I went to my band director and I said, I'd really like to try playing the bassoon. And he said, well, the school doesn't own a bassoon, but we own an oboe. And so I have an oboe. And that's how I got the instrument.
Which school was that?
Pine Plains Central School, Stissing Mountain Junior Senior High School in Pine Plains, New York.
Wow, great. So we sometimes call the oboe the snake charming instrument because it has a really exotic sound. And also, as opposed to the flute where the air just goes through and then the flute has to take a breath, with the oboe there's kind of a backlog of air because there's so much pressure. Can you just explain what's going on?
Yeah, well, what it is the bore, and particularly the reed, is so small that it doesn't move a lot of air through the instrument. So when we're playing, we actually have to get rid of air because the air in our lungs becomes stale. Our body uses all the oxygen, and we have stale air in our lungs, and we have to exhale that air and take new air in so we don't die. And it is a different challenge. For example, when I try to play the flute, I get very dizzy because the flute takes so much air.
Oh, okay.
It's very, very different, and we often have to mark our music not only for where to breathe in, but also where to breathe out.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I know that.
Should we hear something?
I would love to hear something.
I'd love to too.
And Susan mentioned that, kind of the snake charmer instrument, we often get to imitate animals. Tchaikovsky used us to be a cat in Sleeping Beauty. Grofet used us to be donkeys in the Grand Canyon Suite. And probably most famously, Prokofiev uses us to be the duck in Peter and the Wolf.
Yes.
So we get to imitate animals quite frequently. But I'm not going to imitate an animal now. I am
Yes, you
going
are.
to play a
This one.
excerpt
Oh, that's
here
right.
from the Mendelssohn Lobgesang that the orchestra will be playing on Sunday, November 15th. This is one of the middle movements of the orchestral section. It's a lovely duet that I have with the first bassoon, and he and I are having a great time doing this. So. And it goes on from there, but it's really a lovely little
It was
moment.
wonderful.
This is like a beautiful folk tune, folk song.
Yes. And so we're going to hear the other two instruments as well individually. So I would, and can you introduce yourselves too before you play, because I didn't get your names at the beginning.
My name is Catherine Best. I work for Summit Downtown Inc. This is my first full season with the South Orange Symphony. It's great. I love it.
Great to have her too.
I'm Doug Harden. I played in this orchestra a long time ago before being gainfully employed. So I played as a teenager in the early 60s and then went off and got degrees and worked at Bell Labs. And after I retired, I thought I'd see whether I could still play the cello. So I came back and came back to this orchestra, which still existed.
Okay. Wonderful.
But you studied in conservatory, didn't you? Didn't you do some serious-
Well, in the summers I did.
Okay.
So I studied from some tremendous cellists, which told me that, if that molecular physics was probably where I should be, but I can still.
Well, I'd still love to hear it.
Oh, okay. Well.
That was wonderful. Such a beautiful instrument. So rich. I love it.
They always say it's the closest to the human voice. It really is. And then flutists get the option of being asked to play way up high with an instrument that's twice as high and more, the piccolo, which is so amazing to look at close up because you wonder how we can get so many notes out of it. And there's a great piccolo part in the Janet Albright piece that we're playing on in November, and it's a march, and so piccolos can lead the march at whatever tempo they feel like.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Very nice.
And there's a lot of course, snare drum and flute that goes with that.
Oh, it goes with it
Fun.
as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess
Fife
the
and
full
drum.
orchestra.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I know we have about 3.5 minutes left. So I know that you wanted to have everyone play again, like more
Well, we did a Bach chorale that actually has 4 parts in it.
Okay.
So I can mumble along on the tenor line, and Bob will play up an octave, and we'll hear it in all different ranges, but we'll just kind of make a lot of noise and let this. This is a famous tune that a lot of people know because it's Now Thank We All Our God. So it's
okay.
for Thanksgiving season.
Appropriate.
Again, they could do this on their own. Oh no, Bob's gonna lead us, so I get to sing. So no conductor,
okay.
he's just gonna give us the tempo.
Very nice. Very, very nice. So is this one of the pieces you will be performing in November?
This tune occurs in this large work by Mendelssohn for full orchestra, chorus, and 3 soloists.
Oh, okay.
And this is this movement happens at the end. It's called Hymn of Praise, and this hymn is Now Thank We All Our God. So it's become a famous hymn, but it was first articulated in this piece by Mendelssohn. So it's just a beautiful.
This is wonderful. We have just a couple of minutes left in this segment, and I know that we've already talked about your instrument. How you said you started a while ago with the orchestra?
About 13 years.
And I don't think you said when you.
Oh no, this is my first full season.
Oh,
I started
your
in the
first-
middle
okay.
of the last season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you started in the 60s, went away, and then now you're back.
Correct.
Okay. Now, how long have you been, like each of you, been playing your instruments?
Again, I took up the oboe in the 10th grade. And
Oh, okay.
then majored in it in college and have been playing it.
Oh, you've been playing it ever since. Okay. And Catherine, for you?
I think this is 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I played violin for 2 years, and then when we moved to Michigan, they didn't have a string program, so I decided to play flute, which was fortuitous because I love flute.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
Yes.
Great. You've been playing the cello for how long?
Well, I started at age 8. And after college, I kind of transitioned to early music. So played a cousin of this instrument called the viola da gamba, which I still play, but I'm better at this. However, I like to.
And
like
one,
to-
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
So one thing I wanted to make sure I understand, the symphony players are, this is not what they do full-time. They do this, they'll do other things as well. Like,
This is a volunteer orchestra,
Yeah.
and it rehearses once a week, every week on Tuesday nights from
Okay.
7:30 to 9:30. And so they do all have other careers, which is pretty amazing that they're able to play big, difficult repertoire, really virtuosic repertoire, and having while they're pursuing other careers. So it's really
wonderful.
really
Yeah.
fascinating to have that.
Sounds like we all
combination.
studied in college, though. I was a music major. You
I
were
was,
a
yeah.
music major. You went to
Okay.
conservatory. So.
Well, I really appreciate you all taking the time to come and give us a little very individual flavor for what you do. And we'll come back after after this, and we will talk to you. So this is Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin. I'm here with members of the South Orange Symphony Orchestra, as well as the conductor, Susan Haig, and we'll be right back in a second.
Local government, local educational institutions, and local community members all use cable access TV to communicate their message. They depend upon it as an affordable means of outreach. Public educational and government access television empowers local government agencies, individuals, and groups to use the media to speak directly to their constituents in a more direct and cost-effective way. Make sure everyone has a voice. Support your local PEG channels.
Welcome back to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin, and I'm here with Susan Haig, who is the conductor of the South Orange Symphony. So thanks again for the bringing your some of the orchestra members. That was great. So now we're going to talk about your role as a conductor. So
Sure.
first of all, how long have you been the conductor of the symphony?
This is my second season,
Okay.
actually. So just 2 years ago, I guest conducted them, and they were having a search for a new music director, and I'm delighted to be able to do it and work with them.
And then, can you give us an idea of what is the background for a conductor, specifically your background?
Well, there are a lot of things a conductor does. I'll go way back and say that I started piano when I was very young, 4 years old, and then viola when I was 9. So I played in orchestras. I think that's when I got really intrigued with the whole idea of making the music happen. And I loved sports. I did a lot of dance, modern dance and ballet, and you need a kind of physicality and desire to express the music. So I had that going, and I just began really being intrigued by high school and in that idea of the role of the conductor, the person who moves and makes visual signals about how the music goes and just makes all the things happen. But it wasn't until after college, after I was at Princeton University, that I actually took a conducting course. By that time, I was quite interested.
Okay.
And I also, you need to have achieved a certain level as a performer. You really need to understand music in many forms. So I got a master's in piano and did a lot of chamber music and did
Okay.
solo repertoire. I had played in youth orchestras all the way through high school, and so had a sense of orchestra. And then I became an opera coach, so I did a lot of work with singers. You do that from the piano, so it's a pretty varied musical background, which sometimes signals conductor. Once you're doing about 3 or 4 or 5 things, then sometimes that's how you wind up.
Okay. And so is that typical that conductors would learn many instruments and also get a degree in conducting?
It's typical that a conductor has achieved a fairly high level in performance of one instrument. It's not true that you
Okay.
have to know how to play them all.
Oh, okay.
The orchestral musicians are specialists in there, but you have to understand them all. But some people say, do you have to play all the instruments? No, the answer is no. But many conductors are string players. Many have been violists because you're kind of in the middle of the sound. That's my strings as
okay.
well. Many have been pianists. The conductor of the Philadelphia Orchestra was a percussionist. So I mean, it works all around.
Okay. So you know what we're going to do at this during this segment right now, Susan, is that we're going to break away for a second, and we're going to actually look at you conducting a rehearsal for the South Orange Symphony Orchestra, and then we're going to come right back. So we're going to come right back right after this clip. We're back, and I like that clip because it actually showed, like the first segment that we did, you were telling us that for three instruments you don't really need to conduct, but we got a very clear understanding from looking at the clip how you are looking at the violins, the violas, the wind instruments, and you're actually conducting them. So we talked a little bit about your background and how you conduct. So I know that there's a special tool that you use when you're conducting, and I know that you brought 3 of them today. So can you give us an idea? Can you show them to us and tell us what they're used for?
Sure, I'll show you the baton, but I should say first of all that you don't need a baton.
Okay.
A lot of conductors conduct without it. I love conducting without it because if you're not holding it, then your hands are completely relaxed and you can paint pictures even more easily. When you're holding the baton, if you paint, the baton will go flying out into the audience, so you do have to hold on to it. But this visually is just easier when you have a large orchestra. You can see how it extends the arm, and there are some players who are way back there and they're looking at their music and they need to visually see. And so when you raise, you can see that the arc is just much, much larger. But you can still, you can conduct without it.
Okay.
But that's, so it just gives a little more definition. People sometimes have the idea that you're giving the beat. Well, that's in a way.
I'm sorry.
You are indicating tempo, but really the role of the conductor is to signal how the music is going and to create a sense of energy and clarity so that you can unite 50 or 60 people instantly without saying anything. And they're reading it in all different ways. You need to be breathing, and you're making gestures that show the breathing that's actually going on in the orchestra, and that's actually how an orchestra plays together.
Okay.
But there's so many fascinating things, in the clip you could see that some musicians are very close to the orchestra.
Yes.
And so it's easy for them to play if they play right on time, they will actually play ahead of the winds and the brass who are way back there. So the orchestra learns how to adjust. The horns have to kind of play a little bit earlier to be on time. It's just a fascinating sense of hyper communication that's going on between all these players, between the sections and their own leader, between the leaders of the sections, and between the conductor and everybody. So you could go on and on about the psychology of it, but it's complicated. Really
It sounds
intriguing.
like it. So when you are actually conducting and you're using the baton and the people in the back can see you, that doesn't affect the timing. It's just a matter of some are wind instruments, some are stringed instruments. That's really what matters as far as the timing.
Well, the timing is a unified. The whole orchestra is playing, has a certain tempo, and there's a certain collective sense of the rhythm. But to begin a note all together, the strings are causing the string to vibrate with the bow. The winds have to get the breath going. The brass have to breathe early. The percussion has to wind up with a cymbal crash. So they all have different things that they have to do in order to make the sound exactly together. And so the conductor has to make a preparatory signal that's very clear.
Okay.
It's not if you go like this, nobody will be able to play. But it's a big upbeat. And it shows when that downbeat's going to happen. And so, of course, you do the upbeat in different tempos. If it's a fast tempo, it's a quick upbeat. If it's a slow upbeat like that, there's a long, slow breath. So it's really in the prep beat that you show how the music is going to sound and where it's going to go.
So part of your job is being very demonstrative in your actions, and I guess part of that is due to the size of the orchestra, but like you said, it's also due to you signaling them and saying, hey, this is going to be a big, like God, or something like that.
Yes, and what you're doing is it's all being driven by the music that's on the page. So you're physicalizing the music that's in the score. So you can be hyper dramatic, and of course people all have images of just crazy conductors sweating. But the main thing is to be very very clear about it and honest and genuine about the feeling of the music, the sound of the music, the atmosphere, the emotion. And if that's filling and breathing through you will be demonstrating it, and the ideal is to be very, very expressive. if when the musicians look up, you want some sort of inspiration, some sort of connection to the kind of music they're making.
And they're not looking at you. They're looking at you, but they're not focused on you the whole time. They're reading the music and they're glancing at you.
They're
and
really doing both. There's a lot
Okay.
of peripheral. There's a lot of listening. They can see. Sometimes they look up. Sometimes if they look up, where are they going to be on the page? You know, so there's people are saying, why aren't they looking right at you? So you rarely would see players looking right up at the conductor, but there's just a lot of sensitivity and they're very tuned in.
Okay, and a large part of that is actually knowing the music as well.
It
So they
is.
can see, they obviously, unless it's the very first time going through the music, if you're conducting them for any length of time, they're going to understand how you conduct. They're going to understand the
Yeah.
music and how you actually conduct, different types of music. Is that correct?
Yes, and of course they have instructions. The composer has given instructions on the page that they're reading from how the music goes. So it's all that interpretation quickly making it coalesce. So all those they're looking at their music, they're listening to what's going on around them, they're seeing what the conductor's doing, and hopefully all that is bringing things together.
And Susan, I know you have some concerts coming up over a series of months. Where can people find out more about the concerts?
Well, they can go on the website of the South Orange Symphony Orchestra. It's also on Facebook. The orchestra plays Sunday afternoons, so there's a concert on Sunday afternoon, February 21st, and there's at 3 o'clock, and there's a concert on Sunday afternoon, May 1st, on May Day, 3
Okay.
o'clock. And the orchestra is really in residence at the South Orange Middle School and has been for quite a few years. All our rehearsals are there. All the concerts are there. They're free concerts. What I really love about it is that it's a nice spacious auditorium, and there's room for people to move around. And if young kids are there, they can kind of get up if they want to in the middle of the concert and dance in the back, and they really do. I mean, it's really fun. It's a great family atmosphere. So it's a wonderful chance to introduce your kids to a full symphony orchestra. They can walk right up and talk to the musicians during intermission.
Well, that's nice.
There's a reception afterwards, cookies, and I don't know how the musicians have time to bake as well as prepare the concert, but they do, especially our personnel manager, Janet.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you came and visited us today. And I look forward to going to more concerts. And
Great.
Thanks again for bringing the musicians.
You're very welcome. I'm so glad they could be here. It's nice to talk.
I'm Dustin. This is Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we will see you next time. Bye.